my advice to anyone, if you're trying to stay active through pregnancy, do your thing. If you like to run as long as you can and then go to walking. If you like to strength train, if you like to CrossFit, do what you can and just modify all the way through.
You're listening to the Ethos Athletes podcast, where we believe that your health is the number one resource you need to accomplish your dreams. My name is Dr. Matthew Hernandez, and I'm a physician dedicated to helping my patients maintain their active lifestyle and continue doing what they love. I'm sitting down with other experts so that we can provide our listeners with the knowledge they need to improve their health and live their best life. Hey everyone, this is Dr. Matthew Hernandez, and you're listening to the Ethos Athletes podcast, where we provide resources to help you maintain an active lifestyle. This is the start of a new series that we're calling the Fit Mom series. I'm actually really excited to bring this information to our listeners because this is something that I think is often really overlooked in the amount of detail that it should be looked in. There's a lot of information when it comes to fitness during pregnancy and different things like that. And I'd like to shed some light on this topic and make more people aware of options that you have during pregnancy. For this particular podcast series, we brought on Ashley Allen, who is the owner of Ashley Allen Fitness. She is an IFBB professional athlete, certified personal trainer, and a certified pre- and postnatal fitness coach. So Ashley, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
In this particular podcast series, we're going to be discussing a few different topics. So this very first episode, we're going to be discussing how to prepare your mind and body for pregnancy and really look at what needs to be done to make sure that you can start your pregnancy off the right way and stay healthy during this time. And so Ashley has her own personal story that in going through this, I wanted to bring her on so she can really share her story. And, you know, at the end of the day, she loves working with women who kind of fall into this category of pregnant women and fitness. Ashley, let's start off with what made you want to be a fitness coach, and then kind of tell us your story of, you know, from that point. You were the IFBB professional athlete. Tell us your story to how you got to where you are at this point.
I was an athlete growing up. I did gymnastics, I did cheer, I ran track. Sport is definitely in my blood and I love it. And I've always loved getting others involved. And we always went for walks with family. We were so active. But when I went to college, I decided to choose a major that I really wasn't interested in. It was kind of practical. So I ended up getting a degree in teaching. So I have a bachelor's degree in secondary education. After I graduated, after student teaching for a semester, I was not about to go look for a teaching job. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I've always thought in the back of my head, like, get into fitness. Like, it's something you love sport. You're always that go-to person for your friends and family when it comes to fitness advice. You love working out. Figure this out. So I took a year after college to kind of just figure out my life. I had like a quarter life crisis. And I ended up meeting the owner of the gym I currently work at. And I kind of shared with him what I want to do. I want to become a personal trainer. I want to help people get fit and live a healthy lifestyle. So he basically mentored me. He's been in the industry for 30 years. So he knows business. He knows how to train people, obviously. So he mentored me and I got certified. And from there, I was able to start my own business and work with people. And at that point, when you start anything, you kind of take everyone. So I took anyone and everyone who would come train with me. I loved it. And then as I got more refined with my skills as a coach and a trainer, I started to focus more on the women. That's who I attracted. And I think it's so fun taking women in all stages of life because we had changed a lot during our lifetime. So it's been really cool to see how my business and my skills have evolved to really focus on the female body.
One thing that I want to mention and how I got to know Ashley, a lot of our listeners may be familiar with Dr. Alexandra Mayer, who is my partner here at Ethos. Ashley is actually her personal trainer. Dr. Alex absolutely loves her. She talks nothing but good things about her. And so I've gotten to know Ashley through that. Your story from where you're at and how, not only how you became an athlete, but how you transitioned from an athlete to a fit mom. It's a really inspiring story. And this is something that I really wanted to share with our listeners, because I think a lot of women struggle with a number of things when it comes to staying fit, staying active as they become moms. You started out as this professional athlete and transitioned into deciding you wanted to have a kid. What were the stages that led up to all that of, okay, I want to have a kid. This is what I need to do to start taking care of my body to do that. Can you walk us through that piece?
Yeah, so I am a professional fitness competitor. So what that means is I train extremely hard for these shows or competitions. I get on stage, I pose in a bikini, but I also perform. It's a very dynamic routine that I do. It's called the fitness division. So you do a routine where you do jumps and flips. Having the gymnastics background, it became super natural for me. So I did that for about 4 years. I competed. When you compete as a bodybuilder, you take your body to the extremes. Extreme training, extreme dieting, and it's a lot of work and dedication, and I loved it. And towards the end of my 4th season, my husband and I started talking about babies a little bit more. Some of our friends had babies. So we were starting to get baby fevers, but I knew that I had to start to not go so extreme so my hormones could get normal. After that season, I really thought about it and I was like, okay, I really need to get my body not lean, but healthy. There is a big difference. Just because you're lean doesn't mean you're healthy. So I really had to go to a doctor to get everything checked out. So I ended up going to Dr. Alex, and she ran my hormone panels and my thyroid was off. I mean, there was so much going on with my body because it was all the dieting for so many years and not really regulating my hormones or keeping track of them as I should have. So we had to really get that into check before we were able to start trying to have a baby. So once that was in check, it was amazing. It was 2 months later, I called Alex and I was like, hey, I think I'm pregnant. And she was like, come into the office, we'll get some blood work done. And what do you know? I was. So that's kind of how we got pregnant. So
Yeah.
I had to get healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're able to share this, what changes did you notice in yourself during that transition of, being the athlete that you were and the competition level that you were at to, just being healthy for pregnancy?
Drastic difference, because I would train 2 to 3 hours a day and not like walking. This is hardcore training. So I really had to dial it back and let my body recover and heal from all those years of not destroying my body, but training like that. It's really rough on the joints and all the muscles. So I had to really take a step back, only training an hour a day. I would literally set a timer on my phone for 1 hour, and that's all I gave myself. And it worked. So I was able to dial back a little bit. So that's really what I had to do.
In your experience, has there been, with women who are working on dialing back that amount of training, do you see that women often experience issues with dialing back? A lot of women use it as a stress management tool, a bunch of different things like that, and they have trouble actually going and letting their body recover to that because they want to continue to push and stay active and do this thing. And what shift in your mindset did you have to really go and help you through that transition and not have it negatively impact you?
I had to look at the big picture. Before I was pregnant, it was just about getting healthy. And whenever I wanted to train more or push myself or whatever, I had to remind myself, the big picture here is for me to get healthy. I'm not going to get there if I keep training the way I do. And I started focusing more on mobility and actually changing my workouts up so they're not as intense. So even just focusing on that recovery and mobility, that helped me a lot because I was still moving and exercising, but it was just a little lower intensity.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then when I got pregnant, the bigger picture was baby. I had to focus on the baby and not so much that overtraining anymore. So it just what helped me was looking at the big picture.
When you're competing at a competitive level, like you were, there's also a nutrition aspect that goes into it, right? And
oh, yeah.
I think another struggle that people have in this case is going and again making that transition for yourself in the nutrition aspect. So some people might struggle with the physical training, some people might struggle with nutrition, some people might do both. From my knowledge, you seem to really have been able to jump those hurdles fairly easily. Is the mindset shift you had to make in nutrition the same as what you did with physical, or was that different?
It's very similar. So when I compete, you're typically very regimented. I counted macros, but to make it super easy on myself, I wouldn't eat a large variety of foods. So I would just because it was so easy, I would eat the same thing a couple times a day. It was no big deal. But what I didn't realize I was doing was I was like depriving myself of all these nutrients. So I had to kind of change the way I ate. I was focusing more on getting nutrients in, those micronutrients, rather than turkey, rice, and whatever it was, you know? So I
Turkey,
just had
rice,
to
broccoli.
focus on a variety of foods so I can get the nutrients in. So focusing on eating the rainbow and still prioritizing protein. And then that first trimester, honestly, like it was survival mode due to food aversions and nausea. So everything I knew and learned about nutrition went out the window during that first trimester because it was so hard. But then I got back into eating more balanced and healthy during that second trimester. But it's completely different than training for a show or eating for a show because every day is different in my experience. So I couldn't meal prep anymore because if I meal prep something, I wouldn't want it because it just didn't taste good or smell good.
Yeah.
So I had to like just make food as whatever I craved.
Yeah.
And luckily I craved a lot of healthy food, but I couldn't meal prep. It was just this whole new dynamic in the kitchen for me. It was crazy.
Like you mentioned, prior to this, you're very regimented in how you ate. Did you notice that since you had got rid of that aspect when it came to your nutrition, did that end up showing up anywhere else in your life as far as having to keep that regimen? Or were you able just to let it go altogether? And
you know what? It was like this crazy shift for me. I feel like the whole macro counting thing for me during shows was a way to like control what I ate. So I knew if I ate this much, I wouldn't gain weight. So it was a very easy way for me to control. And it was really different at this. I had this huge, like, just like this switch went off. I was able to trust my body. Like I gained this trust in my body during pregnancy that if I ate this, I'm not going to gain weight because I'm just eating to fuel my body. Like it was crazy. Like I just started trusting myself, knowing if I consume this, it's just good for my body and that's it. And I kind of detached from that negative emotion about food. Like it's just because I'm eating this doesn't mean I'm going to gain fat from it.
Yeah.
I'm literally fueling my body. Like it was truly amazing to let go of all of that during pregnancy and beyond too. Like it stuck with me. Like I trust my body knowing that and I know what to eat and how much to eat and it's totally fine. I guess it's kind of intuitive eating if people are familiar with that style of eating too.
Yeah, absolutely. From what I have seen, you've had one of the best recoveries from pregnancy. And that's something that I know Dr. Alex is, extremely like in awe of as well. What would you attribute being able to recover so quickly and rebound so fast the way that you did?
So I definitely, like, hands down, I think working out during my pregnancy and before pregnancy, just establishing those foundational habits. And I didn't like train hard every single day. It was literally one of those things where it was like, okay, just do something during my training days. And that's just what I did. If I didn't go that hard during a workout, it wasn't a big deal because my only goal was to just keep up the habit.
Yeah.
And by training and moving a lot, it really did help with things like lower back pain, sciatica pain. Any of those pains was not really that existent during my pregnancy because I moved so much. My goal during pregnancy isn't to like put up PRs or like change and tone my physique. It really wasn't. It was just to keep moving because I knew if I kept moving during pregnancy, it's a habit and I'll keep it going when the baby comes. That I think hands down, just focusing on that movement habit helped my recovery so much.
Yeah.
Like that is it.
That's awesome. When we're looking at the types of exercises, obviously movement and just being able to do that is important. But when we're looking at the type of exercises that people can do, or that women can do, are there resources that you have? Obviously, coming on with you and working with you is going to be a huge benefit. But what are things that women need to consider when they're looking at training and kind of prepping their body and for pregnancy?
Yeah, so there's this whole concept that you can continue to do exactly what you did prior to pregnancy. That is kind of what the rule of thumb is for a lot of people. However, if you didn't work out before you were pregnant, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't work out during your pregnancy at all. It just means that you probably should not go start a CrossFit program when you're 18 weeks pregnant. You should probably start with some light walking, light weightlifting, anything like that. Because the last thing you want to do is stress your body out. But movement is so good for your body as long as you're not, high risk or your doctor's against it. You should always consult with your doctor before you start any programming, by the way.
When we're talking about staying active and being able to work out, there's so many different things that people can do. There's, I mean, yoga, running, weight training, so many different things. What did you really focus on during this, this time in your life when you were prepping for that?
Yeah. So I always want to say that there is not one size fits all. There is no blanket for pregnancy, and it looks different. Activity looks different on everyone. You'll see some girls on like Instagram who are pregnant doing jump rope when they're 35 weeks. Is that bad? There's no research that says if that's good or bad. It's really up to the individual. And there's some women who walking is enough for them. For me, and what I recommend, always recommend, do what you like. You hear Pilates is so good for you. It's good for to stretch and good for your joints. So my first trimester, around like 9 weeks, I decided to go try Pilates. I hated it. I hated it before I was pregnant. I hated it when I tried it years ago. Like, it's just not my jam. So I was like forcing myself to do it. And then I was like, wait a minute, why am I doing this? I hate going to this class. It's just not something I like. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to stick to what I know and what I like. So I did, resistance training and circuit training. That's what I like. So that's what I did during my pregnancy. So my advice to anyone, if you're trying to stay active through pregnancy, do your thing. If you like to run as long as you can, and then go to walking. If you like to strength train, if you like to CrossFit, do what you can and just modify all the way through as your baby grows, and you'll be so much happier.
I would imagine monitor how much body fat you're having, all that stuff, because you can't go and lean out like you said.
No, your goal, you can't tone your body during pregnancy. Your body is going to hang on to body fat because it needs it. Yeah. The baby needs it. Your body needs it. So you need to have a different goal besides, let's tone up the muscles or whatever it is. I mean, my goal was just to stay consistent. That was my only goal. Just show up.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what I did. There was no physique goal. I wasn't trying to round my shoulders out or keep my quads nice and firm. It just, to me, it wasn't going to work that way. So, and I knew that. Yeah. So I had to create a different goal, which is totally fine.
That makes sense. What advice would you have and you shared some things. What other advice would you have for women, either from your experience? I know you're also very well researched when it comes to this particular topic as well. What are some of the things that you think it's important for women to know when they are, again, we're breaking this up into stages. So when they're prepping their bodies for pregnancy, what are the important things to be aware of?
So I think one of the most important things to be aware of when you're kind of getting ready or you're thinking about getting pregnant is you don't have to make modifications to your workout routine. Keep doing what you're typically doing. If you are really training a ton, if you're a competitive athlete and you're thinking about getting pregnant, I would definitely talk to your doctor, get your hormones looked at and see kind of where your cortisol levels are, how your thyroid's acting. Maybe dial back on that training if you're really going hard and you're really serious about getting pregnant. Just start to get into that mindset of that bigger picture, like I was talking about earlier. Refocus those goals. If you're training for physique purposes right now, maybe train more for performance or just to feel good or to make you happy. Because like I said, during pregnancy, physique goals are not the best goals to have. And then also to focus on, that pelvic floor work. And even if you're not planning on getting pregnant or you're not having kids ever, pelvic floor work is still absolutely necessary. So starting to work on that, getting it into a program. I think it's also great if you are nervous about training during pregnancy. I think it'd be really important to start talking with someone who specializes in pre and postnatal fitness, because they're going to be that resource for you and they're going to guide you through this whole thing so you don't have to constantly start Googling things. And once you get into the web about pre and postnatal fitness, you will be in that dark hole forever. There's so much information and unfortunately a lot of misinformation that hasn't been researched. So it's important to work with someone who has that certification because they have the background knowledge and they've worked with women who are in your same situation. So if you're nervous about it, definitely find a coach who can guide you through this whole process.
Yeah, I love it. Is there anything else that you'd like to add when it comes to women and fitness before pregnancy?
Get those hormones looked at.
Yeah.
I think that's probably one of the most important things. And then also get your partner involved. If your partner is active. I think it's really fun for you guys to stay active while you're pregnant and educate your partner on the importance of pregnancy and how you're going to work out while you're pregnant and all of that. Because if they're on board, they can support you through the process as well. Because there's nothing worse than someone's partner who's like, you're not supposed to be doing that. Are you sure you're supposed to be doing that? Like, educate them on how and what you're doing, because then you can just avoid all that confusion later on.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah. Communicate with your partner.
Communicate with your partner. Seems important, Rule
right?
number one.
Yeah.
Always.
Awesome. Well, Ashley, it was a pleasure having you on for this particular episode. Episode 2, we're going to be discussing how to stay fit during pregnancy and kind of go over some of the tips that Ashley has for that.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It was a blast.
Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Wanting to look youthful and age gracefully? Our team at Ethos Aesthetic Medicine love working with individuals who want natural-looking results with minimal downtime. Our Ethos Glow approach is designed to help you show up as your absolute best self by giving you brighter, more even, and youthful-looking skin. Ask our team how you can get more information on our Ethos Glow approach to achieve natural-looking results that make you shine.